lady is all that I know. She's over me. She's over me. She comes with her hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me. And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Sunday edition of the Paranormal Portal Bedtime Stories From Beyond. I'm your host, Brent Thomas. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for being here. Just the cat's in my lap, so he's being rather needy, so I guess I got to give him some love quick. But hope you guys are doing great. Last portion of your weekend is upon you, but don't worry, the next one will be here before you know it, and you can continue. I actually mowed the lawn today, probably for the last time this year, and I was really sad. It was really a tragic and sad event, but what do you do? What do you do? I guess I'm going to move to a warmer hemisphere. It's always on my mind this time of year, too. It's just like, I have a seasonal affective disorder or something. I don't know what the hell it is. Either that or I just hate snow. I'm not sure which one, but maybe both. But anyway, welcome to the show, everybody. And if you would like to be a part of tonight's show, please feel free to call in. The call-in board is always open here on the portal. Well, usually. But you can call in at 720-923-0500. What the hell? Want to say hi? Hear him purring. This is a new one. He's never done this before. He's never gone for the whole shoulder mount thing, but I guess we're exploring today. So, but yeah, you guys can call in and be a part of the show. If you got a story of your own, did a great interview today. Interviewed Susie from over in Boston, and it was a great interview. It's going to be one of our podcasts coming up now tomorrow as well. We got a podcast coming out. It's kind of like my version of Sasquatch Chronicles. That's the best I can say it, because that's just the way the interview went, and I felt like I was pulling my best Wes Germer. It was a good interview. Really nice guy named Ty. He's an over-the-road trucker, talking about all his experiences and trying to understand all the things he's been through. So we had a good discussion. A lot of great stuff came up, and some really cool things he's experienced as well, including driving right alongside of the Skinwalker Ranch quite a bunch of times. So not that he saw necessarily skinwalkers, but you did see some weird stuff out there. So you'll have to tune in tomorrow on the podcast, and you can download that wherever you find podcasts. That is available on iTunes, iHeart, Pandora, Spotify, Chatbox, etc., etc., etc. So I hope you guys will check that out if you're not already checking out our podcast. And please subscribe. If you like the shows on the podcast, head over to iTunes and leave us a good review, because that'll help iTunes make sure other people see it, or more anyway. So, all right, guys, but here we go. We are going to be all underway, so I hope you all are ready, because it's time for bed. All right, guys, so we are now underway here on the portal, and I got some stories, I guess, for you. So if there's nothing else, I'm not missing anything else, am I? Well, there's 26 of you already in here. Who's in here so far? Let's see. 5 Hazel's in here. Hi, 5 Hazel. Bigfoot, Michigan Rob. How you doing, Rob? Cha-Cha's here. Still love that name. Deb is in here. How you doing, Deb? Donnie C is here. Good to see you, Donnie. L is here. Frank Smith is here. Gentry Coda is here. Lewis is here. Mogi on Monster. Nellie Moen. I'm in here. Renee Harvey's in here. Rick, aka Purple Hobbit, is here. Robert Edgington. Oh, there's Wes right there. Good to see you, Wes. Sasquatch Chronicles is in here, ladies and gentlemen. Sharon Spears, Tesla Tech. Someone else just came in and then left. It like jumped up with another name and then it jumped back. So Robert Edgington came in. How you doing, Robert? Good to see you. So that's the names I'm seeing right now. But if I didn't say your name and you want acknowledgement, let me know. I am Pam. How are you? I am Pam. Good to see you. My cat's gonna start howling. Oh, he's just about schizophrenic. I don't know what the hell's wrong with him. So anyway, I think I got everybody. So let's get started here. I got the stories pulled up for you, ready to entertain. This one is from California, and I'm California dreaming. I just want to be on the record. Actually, I'm dog sitting for a friend of mine, and he's in California right now, and he called me today and said, "Oh my God, it's so great here, it's so warm." I'm like, "Shut up! I don't want to hear about it. Quit it." So, anyway, yeah, I don't know. Let's get to the story. California. My encounter with something unexplainable felt really non-dramatic at the time. It wasn't exactly frightening or shocking. When we tried to make sense of the experience later on, it mainly felt just really weird and creepy. Enough to give me the chills and make it quite memorable. My boyfriend Ed and I slept over at our friend's grandparents' house in Simi, Simi Valley, California. The three of us were ready to go out for the day, and Ed and I had been waiting in a bedroom for our friend to get ready for quite some time, and he was in the bathroom. His grandfather had gone on an errand, and his grandmother was in the living room. Feeling impatient, we decided to go wait outside for our friend. Ed opened the door to the hallway, and I was just beside him, and we both stopped at the threshold to let someone pass down the hallway, and neither of us fully saw this person. They registered more in the peripheral, and it seemed to be an elderly person, somewhat hunched over and shuffling. Our friend's grandma, perhaps. What was odd is that they were whispering in some sort of mumbling, incoherent way, and when the figure passed before us, in our full line of view, it simply vanished. At that moment, I witnessed this, and he said, "Whoa." So I knew I wasn't just hallucinating. We exchanged curious looks and went out to investigate, still looking for a rational explanation, and there was our friend's grandma sitting in the living room talking on the phone. Funny that we were still thinking it may have been Grandma who pulled the vanishing trick. Well, we went outside and discussed what we'd just seen and heard, and found out perceptions identical, and concluded that no, there was no rational explanation. Then we basically just put it out of our mind, like it just didn't fit within the normal framework of our heads. So about a week later, we were staying there with our friend again, and conversation came around to a point in which we remembered to share the very odd experience with him. And his response was really fairly nonchalant, like, "Oh, so you saw our ghost? Yeah, we've all seen strange things. Seems to prefer the back bedroom, which no one stays in coincidentally." And so I never found out any explanation for what happened that day, and I never learned of any relevant history or previous residents, and I don't know it. Wow. You know, Wes, remember that time you sent that cat sound? That's exactly what my cat sounds like now. It's just like he has that same really annoying meow. Oh, he's just howling at me. It's like he's yelling at me, like, "I want to go outside now, now." It's like having a toddler around that has no patience. So they said they never found any explanation for it. The fact that I don't have any answer still haunts me, as well as the memory of that strange whispering voice. Yeah, that's really wild. But again, it's just a presence. Nothing harmful, nothing terrifying, just a presence. So I guess it's not a bad presence to have. If you got to have a ghost, just one that mumbles and walks through the house isn't so bad, I don't think. So let's get to some more here. All right, I got a few more opened up. So let's see what's next here. We're going to go to Illinois. See what's going on there. I posted about the interaction between my son Cameron and the ghost of a little girl that I saw in the hallway of our house. And there's one other aspect of the situation in my house that I want to address. I don't think it is the same spirit simply because there's a sort of brutish feeling here that I don't see in the little girl. It happened twice since I moved in that I have observed, and the first time I was in the living room, which was right at the bottom of the stairs that leads up upstairs to the bedrooms and the office. And then I heard footsteps going up the stairs, and this wasn't like the little girl's footsteps. These were heavy and pounding, like someone stomping their feet, and I could hear a heavy breathing sound as I followed them down the hallway. And when it reached the door to my office, the stomping stopped. Just as I was starting to relax, the door started shaking. And there was a thumping sound like this force was pounding on the door, and my door handle was shaking. And I wanted to reach out and open the door, but I was really kind of afraid to touch it. The door opened itself and then slammed shut, and then the sound stopped. As suddenly as it all started, it was just gone. The second time I was actually working in my office when this happened, the first thing I heard was a quiet sound, kind of like a faint woman crying. And I was looking for an explanation for the sound when I heard the stomping footsteps as they came down the hallway. Then the door started shaking and pounding on the other side of the door. The door swung open and there was nothing on the other side, just the empty hallway. Well, I crept forward to peek down the hallway and was nearly hit by the door when it slammed shut. I'm not as concerned with this as I am with a little girl because this force doesn't seem to have any displayed specific interest in my son, but this is still pretty scary. So this would be a good example of what I would assume is a residual haunting. So in this case, it's not really targeting anybody. It's just, you gotta be kidding me. Oh, Lord. Ugh. So if those are not EVPs, ladies and gentlemen, that's my cat just being pissed that he's not outside. So, but a residual haunting, ladies and gentlemen, is just a haunting, like it's a replay of energy. It's a replay of events over and over and over. And it doesn't seem to really care if there's someone there or not. It's not addressing that person. So the one time this person followed it to the door and from the hallway view watched it all happen. And then the next time they were in the room and heard that faint woman crying, which was something they wouldn't have heard from the last time. And then the rattling, shaking, banging starts, door opens and then slams shut. So it's a repeating event, but what's causing it to repeat? I don't know. I don't know if there's a trigger for it or if it's just a time of year. I used to live in a Victorian home. It was really a great home, great energy, but it was just certain times of the year weird things would happen. It wasn't all the time. The house wasn't always haunted, and I think a lot of those were probably residual. Not that there wasn't an intelligent spirit there, but some of the things that just kept happening were only seasonal, really. So, very cool story, though. That's a great example of a residual haunt. So you'll hear residual and intelligent. It's just the two basic types of spiritual presence that can be around. You gotta be kidding me. He's just loud. So the intelligent haunt, of course, would be targeting a person, would be changing the behavior based upon what the people were doing. So, like if you get something thrown at you, and then another time you get something thrown at you, but it's you're not in the same place, that's intelligently targeting you. Then it's trying to hit you, or trying to scare you enough to make you afraid. But that's an interaction with a living person. But these events are just like a recording, like it's just like playing your favorite song over. It's the same thing happens every time you play it. Well, the same thing happens every time this event repeats itself. So it's not really a conscious intelligence at work, unless there's a spirit trying to communicate what happened in that house. And so they're repeating these events so the person understands perhaps there was some tragedy and, somebody was beating their wife and maybe went too far and killed them. That's a possibility. So it could be that because that person was there, it replayed those events so it would understand. Because I do think that sometimes spirits just want to relay that information. They want people to understand what happened, and maybe that would serve as some sort of closure. But yeah, it's just really strange. Excuse me. All right, this one's coming from New York. Let's see. First, I want to talk about some stuff that's been happening. And one day I was wide awake in my and staring at my wall all alone because my mom was out. But all of a sudden, I hear lots of snapping. So I was looking around, and through my TV screen, I saw a weird reflection off my TV. I'm not sure what it was, though. So the next... I don't know if he's knocking stuff down or what. So the next night, I was listening super carefully, and I heard a whisper from one side of my bedroom and checked, and I saw this scary face in the wall, but then it disappeared. And it looked like it was hiding from someone or something, but it was really creepy. One night I was half asleep, and about 5 things slammed, like stuff just dropped from the upstairs bathroom. The silverware cabinet all fell. Things fell down my stairs. Everything in my closet fell. And then the worst, but this didn't really fall, was that 3 or 4 pillows were flung across the hall into my room. And when I was 7, my toy box just flipped over, and that was scary to watch, to watch it happen to all my toys. Come here. Come here, you egg. Let's see, where am I? And now for the cuts and stuff. A few nights ago, I woke up at about midnight and was almost dying. I was in so much pain. I had woken up with 4 cuts down my back, and they were something like fingernails in them. Now, even some of my friends are afraid to sleep over after my best friend woke up with a cut on his wrist, so he's scared. And he told a lot of the other kids, so there's a lot of freaking out kids around me. That's pretty weird. I don't know. Again, it sounds like a younger person. That doesn't discredit the phenomena, but it certainly seems to lend itself to perhaps embellishment. I don't know. Very, very strange. If they have a really aggressive spirit, that's not good. Okay. Okay, fuzzy boy. All right, so let's go to the next one here. This one is coming from California again. That's tonight's show seems to be California. Lots going on there, apparently. I don't know. All right. What the hell is this? What does it say? Oh, no. I'm not reading this one. This one's like a journal. It's got a lot of dates and times and stuff, and this is like a part of it. So this is the third one of them, and I haven't read 1 or 2, so I'm not going to read that one. I'll just skip that one. Okay, so the next one is coming from Pennsylvania. So when I turned 12 years old, we packed up and moved, and I was sad at the time because I had a lot of good friends where we lived, and the last day at my used to be my house, and I'm packing the rest of my stuff. Excuse me. And the last thing I heard was from the spirits. There was, "We'll miss you, kid. Sorry for everything." And to tell you the truth, I didn't know what to say to them after they said that. They were never that nice before. All I said was, "It's okay." And I was on my way to my new home. It was the first day, and I moved into my new home, and I knew I felt a presence in this house from the get-go. Let me explain this feeling. It was warm as it actually welcomed us. So I decided to look around the house while my mom was thinking of what to do with the house to make it look nice. And I went down to the basement to check things out, and the feeling felt warmer. It felt like relaxing warmth. And I see a boy, looked like a teenager. So I asked him, "What are you doing here?" And he says, "Hey, how are you? I've been here for a while." Then I knew by the way he responded to my presence and the energy he gave out to me that he was a good person. I've been living in this house for about 3 years now. No major problems happening or anything. He usually just gives me a sign that he was in a certain room. He even scared my mom a couple of times, and she doesn't know there's a spirit in this house, and I'm not going to tell her. It's going to worry the mess out of my mom. So usually I tell the spirit, please don't scare my mom. I know you don't mean this, but keep it down, okay? And he usually tells me, oh, okay, sorry. I know this sounds weird and everything, but he is a really nice guy. Okay. One day I was about 11 o'clock p.m., and I said I had to get ready to go to work, so I decided to go to sleep. And I forgot to turn my alarm clock on, and you will not even believe what happened. I guess the spirit in my house heard that night that I had to wake up early for work, and what woke me up was a cold chill all around my body. It wasn't just a cold weather cold, it was a different type of cold, where every hair on your body rises up, and then all I heard was, get up. I was so amazed, and I'm actually thankful to have him in the house now. But soon I'll have to talk to him one day about moving on and resting in peace. He cannot stay here too long. I want his soul at rest. Thank you for all that are reading this. So, I don't know. Again, you kind of have to take these at face value. I mean, either you believe they're legitimate or you don't. Again, these are all represented as real stories, so I don't know. Now, this person could very well be just a natural medium or psychic and able to communicate like that, and that's phenomenal if you can have that kind of dialogue. I can't pretend to know what that's like, but it sounds pretty intense. I think if you could actually like sit down and talk, like have a dialogue with the spirit, that would be pretty incredible. I can't imagine what they maybe could tell you or teach you or, share with you about their experience. Throughout the course of doing this show, of course, I've heard from many psychics who've given us little glimpses into that, the times they have communicated with spirits, but it's not the same as just sitting with a person. I don't think. But again, I'm on the outside looking in. It's hard to understand how that all works, but I find that absolutely compelling that if a spirit was around, you could have conversations as if it was another person in your room, That to me is just fascinating. But I don't know. I don't know enough about it, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't seem to be anything I'm able to do, so at least not yet. All right, I'm pulling open a few more, so we'll see what we get into here. So this one's coming out of Missouri. It says, I've been in internet paranormal activity. I've had an interest. Sorry, what the hell? let me lean in a little bit closer so I don't re-narrate these stories. I've had an interest in paranormal activity since my early teens when I began researching it. Well, as a child, I saw ghosts, and that's what led to me to read dozens of books on paranormal activity, entities, ghosts, apparitions, etc. And it's been a few years since the last time I saw anything out of the ordinary or paranormal. But I was 16 years old, and at the time I had a boyfriend named Dan, and he lives in St. Louis County. And there's a part of his neighborhood that's really old. Most houses in the county were newer, and the architecture is a little more updated. But in this part of town, the neighborhood, the houses have an old country look to them, and some even look like they're collapsing. Well, this part of the neighborhood is called LeMay, Lemay. LeMay is so small that everyone knows each other and even has its own school district. And it seems that the people who live in LeMay never leave, and their families have lived there for generations. It was midsummer, and we'd been swimming all day at the local pool, and finally we're on our way home at about 10 p.m., and I was in the passenger seat as we approached LeMay. For some reason, I felt like looking at the houses. He was driving, and we were both quiet, and I looked to the left out his window, and that's when I saw the house and the people. I'd never seen this house before, a red brick house that was old and had white paint and was chipping off the trim and gutters of the house. And there was a screen porch that wrapped around the house, and it looked like it was falling apart, and the lawn was high, and there was a huge tree sitting in the middle of the front lawn. What scared me the most was the 3 people hanging by their necks from the tree. Yikes. it looked like a family because the person all the way to the left was a man, and then there was a woman, and the last was a small child. Oh, it's horrible. They had dirt on their faces that were dressed like they were from maybe the 1700s. Almost instantly after seeing this, I began to scream at the top of my lungs, and I curled myself into a ball and pushed myself into the corner of the passenger seat. Immediately, Dan hit his brakes and said, "Oh my God." And, "Oh my God, Jasmine, what's wrong?" And I screamed and said, "Keep going." I got to remember to look at the phone. The phone is over here. The next morning we left, we were silent for the rest of the way home since I was in shock, and I didn't really want to speak. And when we got to his house, I explained what I saw, and he believed me because of my reaction in the car. He did mention, though, that he passes by that house every day, and there's no one in front of that house. He said he could prove it to me in the morning. Well, the next morning we left for him to take me home at about 6 a.m., and he stopped in front of the house, and to my surprise, the lawn wasn't as high as it was last night, and there was no tree. Instead, there was a tree stump where the tree had been. Well, I was stunned because the grass was not freshly cut, and the stump looked old, as if it had been cut years and years ago. I looked up into the old screen porch, and there was an old man staring at us through the screen, and we walked back to the car as fast as we could and took off. And I know that Dan believed me. He knew that I was an honest girl, and it's not like me to exaggerate and be overly dramatic. But I would ask for people to help in finding out what happened that day. But I don't feel like I need to know since I was getting used to these things happening. I've read many books, and I know spirits do exist, and we just have to give them their space on this earth too. I don't mind sharing, although I do find myself being frightened when it comes down to it. Yeah, I don't know if anybody's ready to see people hanging from a tree. I think that makes a lot of sense that would be really, really freaky. But again, if anybody wants to call in, board is open. I'm going to move this just a little bit, though, so it's more towards my field of view. There we go. All right. So this one's from Missouri as well, or Missouri. If you're a native Missourian, it's a Missouri. Okay, this story takes place in the city of St. Louis, Missouri. The year was 1996, and I really don't remember what time of the year it was, but I was about 8 years old, and I don't even remember what I did that day or why my mom and I stayed the night at my grandma's house, but my grandma's house was a shotgun-style house. The living room, dining room, and the master bedroom were all connected, and there was a door that led to the master bedroom from the dining room. And if you sat in the living room and looked straight, you could see through to the dining room and into the bedroom's door. I remember we were sleeping in Grandma's living room, and my mother and grandmother were lying on the floor sleeping, but I was on the couch trying to sleep, and I was laying on my side and facing the dining room, and I opened my eyes, and in the dining room at the threshold of my grandmother's bedroom, I saw something. I knew what it could be since my mother had told me ghost stories that took place in her childhood, so I was aware of the possibilities of a ghost's existence. When I saw this white figure, I was terrified, but I kept staring at it and couldn't even blink. It was a figure of a woman, and I could see her hourglass figure. At first she was really still, but then she started moving in place. She was waving her hands as if she wanted me to come near her. Well, I continued to stare, and the woman began to move as if she was dancing very slowly. It looked as if she was moving in slow motion, and I couldn't see her face or even the clothes that she was wearing. Her whole body appeared a bright white, almost fluorescent. I wanted to get my mom's attention, but I was too afraid to move, and I didn't want the ghost to know I could see her, and I just pulled the cover over my face until I fell asleep. The next morning when we all woke, I told my mom and my grandmother what I had seen, and they told me it was my imagination. Nice. So the mom actually shared ghost stories with her when she was young, but when she actually sees it, no, that's your imagination. That wasn't real. What a betrayal. So years later, I brought the story up to my grandmother, and she told me that she believed me, but she didn't want me to know, since I was so young at the time, and she didn't want to scare me. She stated that she had seen the ghost more than a few times, and the ghost would often move things around. I also found out that at that time, I had seen the ghost my little brother. I'd seen the ghost my little brother was a few weeks old. I don't know, the ghost of my little brother or seen the ghost when my little brother. I don't know what they're saying here. They would wrap my little brother up like a burrito and lay him on my grandmother's bed and then go sleep in the living room. Then they would wake up to my infant brother's cry and go check on him. Okay, so it's obviously not his ghost. When they would go check on him, they would find him on the floor at the threshold of the bedroom door with no blankets, cold as a popsicle. Well, that's crappy. There was no explanation for this since no one else was at home, and my brother couldn't have moved himself since he was only 2 weeks old. This happened more than once, and eventually my grandmother moved to a house down the street, and my cousin and his family ended up moving into her old house and say there's a woman haunting them. Apparently. All right, this one's from Alabama. I hear it's a sweet home. That's what Skinner told me. All right, so, hi, my name is Ashley, and I currently live in Birmingham, Alabama. Alabama. Sorry. Tongue got a little fat for my mouth there. There's an old steel mill located I've heard of this place. There's an old steel mill located called Sloss Furnace. I guess down the road. I don't know. It's haunted, and I visited Sloss twice with two of my friends. Yeah, that place Ghost Adventures went there at least once or twice. The first time we went, it was really interesting to see how the things worked in the 1800s. The factory was built in 1882 and was closed because of pollution, and the cost of steel went down in 1971. And we took photos and we walked around twice. But one of the rooms, called the blowing engine room, had some kind of attraction to it. Story has it that this is where the majority of the men worked and where also most of the worst deaths occurred. We heard banging noises and footsteps. We took a photo where one of my friends was standing by an old wheel, where one of the men was supposedly got snagged by the wheel, which was moving really fast, and was crushed. And about every few seconds, there would be less of his body. I was scared to death. The picture was perfect. I wasn't moving and he wasn't either, but when we examined the photo, his body was see-through and his head was gone. We were a bit scared that night when we went home. My second visit was with one of the same friends, but I brought along my best friend this time, and he was very skeptical about going to Sloss because his exact words were, "Respect the things of the past." But he ended up going with us anyways. This time was kind of unusual because the museum schedule stated that it was open Tuesday through Friday, 10 till 4 p.m. But we went on a Monday, and no one told us that we would have to leave. So as soon as we got beside the old machines outside, both of my friends felt like they were being watched. I said that they were just a little uneasy about the visit. I really wasn't bothered because I knew what to expect, and we were by the biggest furnace there was, and we were reading about the different machines and how they worked, and all of a sudden, I spotted a white, shadowy figure peeking from behind a pole. And as soon as it turned my head, it was gone. We went into the tunnel, and my best friend stated that he saw a dark, shadowy figure standing next to my other friend. He didn't tell this until we all left. We went inside the blowing engine room, which is supposedly the most haunted in the factory, and began to walk around. And I can say, as soon as you get inside the room, you feel very lightheaded, nauseated, weak, and full of fear. I was telling the different stories from which I heard about the people who had died in the room, and as we began to stroll around the room, we stopped, and out of nowhere, we heard something go, "Shh." When I say we ran like we've never ran before, I dropped my watch and went back to get it, and I guess I wasn't that afraid enough to the point where I could go back and get my watch. But that was a very interesting encounter, and I will definitely go back there, but not alone. Why did we experience paranormal activity on our second visit and not on our first? Was it because my best friend was with this time and so full of fear? Because ghosts know when you're afraid and they feed off the fear? Maybe. Hard to know, but yeah. Well, that's just the thing, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, the paranormal happens when it happens, why it happens, how it happens. I mean, there's no schedule to it. Just because the place is open doesn't mean you can expect every time you go there to be a haunting experience. I think that's probably the toughest part about paranormal investigating is just that you may go 50 times and not have anything happen. And then there's that one time where, it's that one magical moment when things just go sideways and there's no knowing why that time and why not the other times. It's just the way it works. I guess when they want to do something, they'll do something. And when they don't, they won't. I don't know. maybe it's also because there wasn't a tour scheduled that day. So maybe the spirits, don't like to do a lot of stuff when the tours are happening. I don't know. I'm just speculating, of course, but it's strange. Very strange. So this one's Missouri as well. This one's kind of long. Let's see how we're doing on time. No. Oh, yeah, we're doing good. We got about 20 minutes left. So, Missouri. This takes place in St. Louis, Missouri, my hometown. I still reside in St. Louis, but I no longer live in the house where I grew up. My parents still live there and claim that the house is no longer haunted ever since it was blessed. From what I remember, it was definitely haunted. There had been many incidents, but one that I vividly remember took place when I was about 13 years old. I have a younger brother named Carlos, and at the time he was 10. My mom was a janitor at our elementary school, and earlier that day, she had brought home a very large bucket of crayons. Well, Carlos and I spent the rest of the day coloring in our room. It was about 9 p.m., and my father said it was time for bed, and Carlos and I shared a very small room with bunk beds, and he got the bottom bunk, and I got the top, and we didn't feel like going to bed, so I took a handful of crayons and climbed up to the top bunk and started throwing them at my brother, who was lying on the bottom bunk, and he would throw some back up at me, and we were laughing and loudly, and we got really rowdy, so my father stormed into the bedroom and said, "What the heck are you kids doing? Clean up those crayons and get to bed." I'll just say get to bed. That's not what he said, but it's a family show. Quickly, we cleaned up all the crayons and threw them back in the bucket, and my little brother and I feared our father. We were so afraid of him that we slept in the same bunk on the bottom. We passed out, and at about midnight, my brother woke me up. He said, "Jasmine, I'm scared. Look at the door down the steps." Look out the door down the steps, and our bedroom door was right in front of the steps that led to the downstairs reception lobby area, and I looked down the steps, and the light in the lobby was flickering on and off in a pattern. The switch was loud since it was one of those switches that makes a loud click when you flick it, and we could see the switch flicking up and down in our bed from our bedroom, but nobody was flicking it, and we both grew really frightened, and I told him to ignore it, and it was probably just defective. I didn't want him to be scared, but I knew I was really scared. I turned away from the steps and just fell asleep. Later that night, Carlos woke me up again, and he said, "Jasmine, wake up, I'm scared." I woke, and our bedroom door was now closed, and it was pitch black in our room. Carlos said, "Listen, it sounds like crayons hitting the walls." Well, I listened for a few seconds, and that's exactly what it sounded like. I was very afraid, so I pulled out a flashlight that we kept under the bed, and I turned it on, looked around the room, and saw nothing. No crayons flying against the wall, and I saw nothing out of the ordinary. We continued to listen, and the noise never stopped. Finally, we fell asleep, and when we woke up the next morning, to our surprise, the crayons were all out of the bucket and all over the floor. There were crayon markings on the walls, as if someone threw crayons at the walls and left little dotted markings. We were terrified. We cleaned up the crayons and threw them away. We told everyone in the house what had happened, but Carlos and I were the youngest of all the children, and everyone thought we were just immature. They believed we made the whole story up. Years later, I brought the story up to my older brothers and sisters, and they believed me since it was years later, and I was still claiming the story to be true. That's what a horrible thing, though. Those kids are already dealing with a really crabby father, and then something comes in and starts chucking crayons around. No, that's not even nice. All right, I got a few more open here. Let's see where we end up now. We're going to Florida, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to journey down to Florida. All right. Am I missing anything? No. All right, let's go to Florida here. For a while now, I felt a male presence at night, usually when I'm by myself. I have only physically seen him a few times. He's pretty much been in my life since I was about 7 or 8. And when I was 7, I moved in a nice neighborhood. And about 2 years later, I moved into a house 2 doors down for about 5 years. And then I moved to a different city. And when I was in a different city for almost 2 years, he never bothered me. All of a sudden, I live in the first neighborhood where I first met him, but on a different street. But his encounters are a lot worse and scarier. For the first time at about 1 to 1.5 months ago, he finally came to me while I had my boyfriend staying over, and he's never come to me when someone else was in my presence. I told my boyfriend that I knew someone was going to be in the backyard that night, and it was going to be a guy dressed in all black and kind of tall, but I never described what the guy would look like. And sure enough, I managed to stay asleep all night because I felt safe that he was there. And he wakes me up early that morning at around 7, telling me that he saw a tall guy dressed all in black. A few weeks ago, he comes into my backyard again and made it super windy in just my backyard and nowhere else around the house. And he somehow flashed really bright lights around in my backyard. But when I looked, there was nobody there except for a bunch of leaves and sticks in a really weird shape coming toward the window that I was looking out of. Well, I freaked out and closed the curtains, and then he started banging on every window in my room. And I have 10 windows in my room that go outside all to the backyard. When I was younger, he would show himself as a dark shadow or by manipulating objects. Exactly a week later, I was in a really deep sleep, which rarely happens, and all of a sudden I felt as if I was wide awake, and he was posed as a short, chubby man floating around the backyard. Floating around in the backyard, light went out, which made my room go completely black. The backyard light ensures to me that everything will be fine and helps me feel safe at night, even though it only casts a light glow into my room so I can just barely see everything in my room. All of a sudden, I see him standing outside one of my windows, laughing at me. I try to scream for help, but nothing comes out, so I try and grab my cell phone on my nightstand next to me, but I can only move in very slow motion, and for some reason, there's some sort of invisible barrier around my bed that no matter what, I can't even as much as flick a finger off the side of my bed. Next thing I know, I'm staring at him in the face, and he laughs even harder and then gives a horrible shrill, I'm not sure shrill what, and I start to have a panic attack, and I wake up, and sure enough, I am really having a panic attack, but the backyard light is on. A week ago, he came back, and my boyfriend was staying at my house again, and just as we were getting ready for bed, I'm in the bathroom getting ready for bed, and my boyfriend heads to my bedroom, and before I can open up the bathroom door, he's knocking on the door to see if I'm in there, and I assure him I was in there the entire time, and he tells me about how he saw a ghost about my height with blonde hair and light-colored eyes, and how she just stood there looking at him and then just dropped to the floor on the other side of the bed. At first, I was freaked out, thinking it was him, and that somehow find a way into my room, and next thing I know, we're sitting on my bed with the lights on, and I feel him standing outside the window right behind me, and he's really pissed off, but yet I feel a gentle female presence that's very familiar. Sarah is her name, and she's been with us since before I was born and has been watching over us for years. and we openly let her stay with us and everywhere we go, and let her do as she pleases as long as she doesn't do anything bad or cruel, which she never has. Well, I tell my boyfriend about her really quick, and she shows herself. There's a call. I'll get to the call after this story. I tell B about her really quick, and she shows herself to me for a few seconds by sticking her head out of my vanity, letting me know it was really her. But his presence was becoming unbearable, and B, the boyfriend and I told him to go away many times and to never come back and all that, and he was not welcome here at my house ever again. He eventually left, but he didn't go very far from this house. Just last night, he came into my dreams as a little boy and gave me that wicked smile and laugh that he always gives me. I don't remember much of the dream, but I remember the voice he used. I immediately woke. Surprisingly, I didn't have a panic attack when I woke, because I tend to have them whenever he comes into my dreams both day and night. I look over on the floor next to my bed, and there he is. As the little boy, he put on his scary smile and said, "Hey." Afterwards, he had that same wicked laugh. I was so scared and freaked, I turned on my light as soon as possible, hoping he wasn't there. Of course, now I always sleep with a cat in my room to notify whether or not there really is something in my room or outside, and to my horror, my cat saw him too. There she was next to me, hissing at where he recently was, sitting on the floor. I was told to never use my back door or windows because that is how he stays in my backyard, and my grill is in the backyard, so I have people go in and out the back door constantly when we're using it. I was even told by, it says told by and then nothing, that the door and the windows must never be used. But if I do use them, they must only be used when it is bright out or during a thunderstorm, because he refuses to come during a thunderstorm because I find them relaxing. I often have fears that one day I might be physically attacked by his presence. I only want him to go away and never to return ever again. So that sounds like a pretty diabolical presence. I don't know if it's demonic, but it's definitely a dark spirit for certain. It's at least very mischievous. Not a good presence. So we'll get to the call here. And this is area code 228. You're on the air. Hello? Oh no, oh, there you are. Can you hear me? Hello? Oh, Skype doing that stupid crap again. Okay, hold on. Stay on the line. I'm going to try something. What the hell is going on? I don't know if it's doing it again or not, but I got to check it. Hold on, ladies and gents. I'm going to look at the settings and see if that happened again. Audio. Okay. No, it should be working. Can you hear me? Hello? Are you there? It's not going to work. I don't know, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know why this person isn't hearing me. Are you there? Hello? One more time. Try again. Hello? Try talking. No, nothing. Nothing. Okay, well, I guess this isn't going to work. I don't know. Will someone else call me? Will you? Let me test this out. I don't know if that was the caller's issue or mine, but if somebody please call the line, I'd appreciate that so I can know if it's my problem or theirs. It looks like everything's working on my end, as far as I can tell. So, again, 720-923-0500. If somebody would just call this so I can test the line, I would appreciate it. It's been flaky the last few nights, adjusting its own settings and stuff. So, before that, it's been working great for months and months. So, there we go. Someone else is calling here. I think this is Gentry. Is this you, Gentry? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello?
Well, I heard the line unmuted, so can you hear me?
Let me just see.
This is Gentry.
Hi, how are you?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, just hold on 1 second. 1 second.
Hello? Can you
Just
hear me now?
no, it's definitely me. So hold on. Ugh, just a sec. Let me hang this up.
I cannot hear you, but I'm
Uh,
wondering if you can hear me. This
uh,
is Gentry. Just trying to help out.
all right, I'm gonna reconnect that. So I don't know why it's being so flaky, but it's just the way of the world. Okay, let me see. There
Now
I
I got
am.
the hold music.
Are you there now? Can you hear me?
Well,
Hello?
I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know why it's.
Hello?
Yep, I'm here.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can hear you.
Okay, good. I'm
Can you
sorry
hear
about
me?
that. Yeah, I can now. Thank you so much. That's great. I appreciate it.
Uh, Okay.
Okay. See ya. Thank you.
Are we good now? You got it
I think
figured out?
so. Yep. I'm gonna try
Okay.
that line now again. Thanks a bunch.
All
Okay.
right.
Okay, so let's try this call again. Hello, area code 228. I think I've got it fixed. Are you there?
Well, hello, this is Hazel. I have a quick story. I realize time is running out. It's a very true story. It happened in Long Beach, Mississippi. There was a report in the 60s in the newspaper about a ghost that was roaming around the only park in Long Beach, Mississippi at that time. And he was described as an elderly man and tall. And many residents of Long Beach, Mississippi saw him. And when I was a little girl, I was swinging and swinging in that park, and I actually saw him. And it was an elderly man. He wore a derby-like hat. He had on a brown suit, and it was rather eerie. I told my mother about it. Well, my brothers heard about that, and then one of my older brothers told me that when he was young, a man sat on him, on his tummy, while he was sleeping. And
Oh.
he woke up screaming because he saw a man sitting on him. And my father asked what he looked like, of course, and my brother had described the same man, and the ghost had left an imprint of his rear end on my brother's tummy,
Oh
and my
no.
brother was horrified.
Yeah, that's terrible. Wow. So it was literally like a sleep paralysis then, but it was an actual manifestation.
Yes, he was able to see the man. He was able to see the ghost. And
Oh,
I even saw the ghost in that park when I was a little girl as well. And there's documentation about the same ghost. You'll
wow.
find it in an old newspaper clipping in Long Beach, Mississippi.
So did anybody ever figure out who this ghost is or what his story is, or not that you know of?
And ironically, no one ever put a name to the ghost.
Wow. What a horrible situation.
And the park was across the street from a church.
Oh, jeez.
It's a little irrelevant, but it was.
Well,
And I
sure.
know, Brent, I absolutely love Paranormal Portal. You
Oh,
come up with such great stories and guests. And I just thank you for giving me the time of day. And hello to everyone in YouTube. Be sure to hit that thumbs up.
yeah.
I know that Brent and Don and everyone involved with Paranormal Portal work really hard. And yes, I am a mod for another channel. I don't know if I'm allowed to mention that
Oh, sure.
channel.
You can for sure. Yeah, no problem.
Well, it is Bigfoot Odyssey, and I'm not an avid researcher, but I have a very much interest in Sasquatch. Yes, I have an encounter story. I reserved that exclusively for Kerry Arnold one day at Bigfoot Odyssey, and I will tell that to him one day. Otherwise, I would tell it to y'all. But
Okay.
I just want you to know much love and peace to everyone here.
All right, we love you too. Thank you so much for being here and being a part of our show. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. And your guest last night was awesome, Brent.
Yeah, Amy's just great. She's just got such a light spirit. Just so fun to talk to her.
Well, and she was so very intelligent, and I noticed she put a lot of time and work in her endeavors.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't claim to know her real well, but she's one of those people that I met her at that conference in Spokane and I just liked her. Just like, boom, I just liked her. And she seems to have that effect on everybody. She's just such a likable soul, but very sincere.
Yeah, she was very serious-minded, and you could really, you really could tell she was very serious-minded about it.
Yeah.
And I really admire that
Hmm.
because that's what we need. We're really we'd like to prove, and y'all touched on perhaps there's a little bit of a government cover-up,
Sure.
and I say that kind of lightheartedly and jokingly because we kind of all know there's many people who have seen Sasquatch and Bigfoot, and they
Hmm.
call him by different names.
Right.
And there's just, Brent, you said something one night on the show. You said it's just 1% of
Hmm.
all the paranormal encounters is true, and that is a massive amount of truth.
Yeah.
And I'm inclined to agree with you on that.
Yeah. Well, it just occurs to me. I mean, we can't know a lot of times. I can't be sure that, I guess if people call in and participate, I assume always, and I will always assume that they're just being honest and forthcoming. But, some of the material I find for the show, I can't be sure it's all real. But if just a small percentage of it is real, that's still a hell of a lot of weirdness going on. And it definitely demonstrates some pretty amazing stuff going on in our reality.
Well, and we all have a measure of, excuse me, we all have a measure of extrasensory perception.
Sure.
All of us human beings, we have that, and we have that ability.
Hmm.
And I just feel that some people are more in tune with it than others.
Right.
And I'm inclined to think that those that are the ones that are having paranormal encounters. They
Sure.
seem to be intuitive when other presences are around them.
Yeah, that's a great point because I can't tell you how many times I've heard stories where like a group of people will be together, but only one of them will see an apparition or only one of them will hear a disembodied voice. The rest of them, even being right next to them, don't hear it. So it does seem to imply that there's at least latent ESP going on there.
Right, and people that have had experiences since they were young, it would affect them as young children,
Right.
and they knew they were intuitive to it. And as they grew up, and they send stories into you, and I'm very much inclined. I listen intently,
Hmm.
and you can really tell when someone's really seriously giving their actual encounter.
Yes. Yeah.
And some of them really, really are. I feel it.
Yeah. Yep. I don't disagree with you at all. I think you're absolutely right. And I think there's a lot of magic still going on in the world. It's just that we got to remember how to find it.
I have to laugh. And your chat just keeps me roaring with laughter a lot of nights that I'm participating in it. And I
Yeah.
really have to give a big shout out to them, Brent, because they're pretty awesome in what they have to say.
Yeah, they're great. Just an amazing group of people, and I really can't take credit for it. I mean, it's just these people have found us, and it's just such an honor that so many people have called the portal home and made it their home now. So it's just fascinating and fantastic, and I'm absolutely humbled.
Well, I think more people need to call in, Brent, because I'm kind of shy about talking live.
Yeah.
And you make that very easy because I've noticed you're very objective. You're not judgmental, and that you seem to have a kind heart, and you listen to people intently, and that's to be respected and admired. And hopefully, it will encourage some more of the wonderful people that visit your channel to pick up the phone when Brent's on, give him a holler, tell your experience, because when we're sitting down in the YouTube chat, I'm one of those participators in the YouTube chat, and I absolutely love it when
Yeah.
other people interact with Brent. So y'all stop being so shy.
Amen. Just listening to Five Hazel, she's telling you what time it is. That's awesome.
All right. Well, I will bid you adieu. Much peace and love to all.
All right, my lady. Thank you so much again, and have a wonderful night. Very cool. And I appreciate the patience while I chase these ghosts out of the machine, as it were, because I don't know. I don't know why things keep changing now. It's technology, and technology is always quirky, and they're always trying to smack some kind of new update at me on something. Something's always updating, and that always screws up everything. But I don't know why Skype keeps screwing up my either the microphone settings. It keeps screwing them up, and I don't know why. But it's just the nature of the beast, I guess, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know. At least I know now that I'm going to have to check that before every show. So I can check it, I guess, with my own phone. I can call myself before I start the shows. So that's what I'm going to have to do because I don't know. It's embarrassing to be in the middle of a show and then realize I can't talk to people that are calling in. So thank you for the patience, 5 Hazel. I appreciate you sticking with me on that. Glad we got it sorted. And thank you, Gentry, for helping me test it and getting it sorted out. That's awesome. I really appreciate it. So I guess that's going to be the show, ladies and gentlemen. We are just past the hour mark, so I hope you enjoyed this version or this episode of the Paranormal Portal. I guess have a great and wonderful Monday. Just, again, Mondays generally suck, but just try to program it. Just try to say it's going to be a great day, and maybe it will be. So, all right, guys, love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can. And I'll be back tomorrow with some more bedtime stories right here for you. So every night, 7 days a week at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I'll be here doing a portal. So come on by, make yourself at home, and join the show. So take care, everybody. Love you guys, and have some sweet dreams.